What is a domain expansion? A domain expansion is a very pivotal and important component as a Jujutsu sorcerer in the story of Jujutsu Kaisen. It is known to be the most difficult and the most supreme ability that can be obtained. We have recently been introduced to all types of domain expansions that are available and how they differ from one another. That's why today we will be explaining everything you need to know about domain expansion. So if you haven't already, make sure you can leave a like, subscribe if you are new, and let's talk and see all about domain expansion. As you know, domain expansion is the concept of a final attack on your opponent in which takes a large sum of cursed energy. It forms a barrier-like space which inside the domain looks larger than it is on the outside, which presents how refined it really is. When it commences, it is pretty much impossible to get out until someone loses, meaning you cannot escape the domain. But there are a few exceptions to this rule which we will get onto soon. When used, this gives the user a great advantage unless they come head to head with another user that uses the domain expansion. This would then cause a power struggle in which the most refined domain expansion would win. The domain would consist of the user's innate curse technique and personality, pretty much related to their abilities. For example, Jogo uses his domain expansion represented as a volcano disaster curse, trapping his opponent in a volcano-like setting. And Sukuna's, which is dismantle and cleave, which is known as one of his abilities, and as you can see from his domain expansion, he is able to slash and cleave. As Gojo says earlier on in the series, constructing a domain expansion uses a ton of curse energy, but can be worth it. First off, you get an upgrade in stats due to the environment, kinda like a buff in a video game, meaning that you would be able to have a lot of advantage against your opponent. Now you're pretty much fighting a buffed up character. When deactivating a domain expansion, you would have problems actually controlling your curse technique. Similar to how we see in the Sendai colony with Yuto Kotsu, Yuro and Ishiguri, you can see that they were struggling to use the curse technique and it was very unstable, leading them to be more susceptible to some attacks. So guys, there are 3 different types of domain expansions, which some were introduced during the Culling games. The sure hit domain and the sure hit and kill domain. But there are more than meets the eye, because there's also a sure hit and kill domain depending on your cursed energy and if it can track. So some of these names and concepts might be new to you, but let me break it down. There are different versions of the sure hit and kill domain. Take Gojo for instance. When his domain expansion is used, he attacks the opponent, overloading their brain with information and killing them in the process. But when he uses such a domain, he cannot control for other factors. Anything that is within the domain would get affected by its effects. But on the other hand, another version of a domain expansion would be someone such as Dagon, in where they could target who they want to attack and constantly do so, which can guarantee a sure kill in that way. But in other cases, domains such as Naiwa Zenin rely on the ability to pick up on cursed energy to be able to attack the user. Do you kinda get it now? So the other version of a domain expansion, which is a sure hit but not a sure kill, would be an example of Hakuri and Higuruma, both characters' domain expansions which are able to force rules onto the opponent and they must abide by them. But it doesn't guarantee the loss. For the user, it would actually take them out of the situation and the domain once the conditions are fulfilled. These are different type of versions when it comes to domain expansions, which have developed differently over time. Whereas older sorcerers from back in the day would create a sure kill domain, modern day sorcerers tend to operate rule based domains to battle because of how hard and how much knowledge you might need to perfect one. As we can see, Megami does struggle quite a lot. Domain expansions are most definitely the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery, but if you don't have a domain expansion, you should definitely perfect a simple domain. In short, a simple domain is a counter to domain expansions. Commonly, this simple domain would consist of the hollow wicked basket or shadow style. With this, they will be able to defend themselves to some degree to not guarantee a sure hit on the user, but they cannot leave unless they are able to defeat the user or make them stop activating the domain expansion in the first place. This is usually great for a sure hit and kill, as a modern day sure hit domain would pretty much leave you to abide by the rules by force. But on the other hand, we have characters that escape the rule entirely, which as you know are Maki and Toji. Due to the zero curse energy, they are not able to get targeted by the sure hit effects and some sure kills. Unless it's someone like Gojo, in which it affects everyone, then in that case it wouldn't matter at all. This would mean if the domain cannot detect the user and they are treated similarly to an inanimate object, this could cause the domain expansion user to struggle tremendously. So which characters in the series can cast the domain expansion? Well, characters are Sukuna with the Malevolent Shrine, Jogo with the Coffin of the Iron Mountain, Gojo with the Unlimited Void, Dagon with the Horizon of the Captivating Scandus, Megami with the Chimera Shadow Garden, Smallpox Deity, which is some sort of coffin, Mahito, self-embodiment of perfection, Hakuri, idle death gambler, Naiwa, Taisel Moon Palace, and Kenjaku, Womb Profusion, I guess. Yuto Kosu and Yuki also have a domain expansion, but we do not know what they are yet. These characters are the greatest threats in Jujutsu Kaisen. Good luck fighting against them, especially if you don't have a domain expansion. And yeah, that would settle it for this video. Check out my playlist of other explained videos on the screen, and the last explained video I made is right there. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and as I say to the new and old people that come and visit my channel, Jana.